Hello and welcome to one of my first tutorials on Saelig. So this is going to be a short series on how to start the game, how to play the game. It's mostly tailored towards beginners and people who are interested in starting playing the game. Now I know the game itself has a bit of a learning curve, and I will try to guide you through that. Now first of all, the first thing you got to do is start a new game and create your character. Now quite simple. We have to give a name. Well, first we have to select a gender. So you can be a woman or you can be a man. Set up as beard or as clothing, if any way you want it. And then go on to the next continue. So we'll do that. Let's give ourselves a name. I am always going to be Millitant. And I'm going to call him Bum Rush. You know what? Bum Rash. Probably better. I suppose a capital B. All right. We want to decide the normal number of days, right? So you can always generate the names in your character, whatever you want. But again, let's continue. Day length. If you want to have a normal day length, then that's usually a couple of minutes of playtime per day before it gets night again, and then the next day. You can also play it shorter, which means that you have less time in the day to generate money or to work on tasks or jobs, make money. Long is if you want to have as much time possible to make a game. So if you want to play an intense short game, then you press it in short. If you want to have a long and leisurely kind of idle kind of game, then you want to go for a long. We're going to go for a normal day length. Now, days per season. Now, every single year, and the game is split up in years and days, and in seasons, basically. You have a couple of days per season. Normally you would have 30. That makes it really, really long. So you would have to take 30 days before you are through the summer or through spring. In most cases, you want to do like a couple of days. You want to go for short years and then sprint through the years and grow old real fast. Then you want to go for 1. If you want to go for a normal, you want to set up on 8. So we'll select 8. So we'll have 8 days per season. 8 days in the summer, 8 days in the winter, 8 days in spring, and 8 days in fall, so that we can get as much of the materials as we possibly can before we get into trouble. It is, of course, it is quite nice to have shorter days. Winters will be very difficult to make it through in the beginning, and the autumn, summer, and spring seasons and stuff are pretty short. So I think that 8 is usually a good balance between things for beginners. So I select 8. If you want to have a very leisurely game, then go for 30, and then you can take your time. Take 30 days, and then simply play the game as relaxed as you possibly can. Years to pass after 4 seasons. Now, usually you would have 1 year after 1 season, also after 4 seasons that is passed, but you can grow older faster if you have like 2 or 4 selected, particularly if you have to have children. So the game itself allows you to have kids. They're potentially your heir, but they're only your heir if they grow to a certain age, and then they can take over your business, your money, whatever you want or whatever you have. Otherwise, your spouse will do that instead. So we're going to go for we're going to go for 2 years past every 4 seasons. So every time a year passes or 4 seasons pass, we are advanced 2 years. And then the player needs eating and sleeping. If you want to have a leisurely game, just put this off. Then you don't have to do any survival. You don't have to feed. You don't have to sleep. You can just play on and on and on. If you want to have to make it a little bit more challenging for yourself. So you have to eat. You have to sleep. There's no negative aspects to this. You might get a little bit sick maybe sometimes, but you don't necessarily need to eat and sleep. So we'll just leave that on. Raids. If you want to have an extremely peaceful playthrough where you have the length of long, the seasons are long, the days are long as well, then you can put in peaceful. Then you won't get attacked by raiders at all, and you can progress the game at your own pace. This is quite useful if you want to try to learn the game. If you have a bit of a request for a bit of a challenge, then I would suggest put it on medium. Usually what would happen in most maps and stuff, you would have around about between 3 and 7 raiders attacking your village, depending on how many watchmen there are and how big the village is. In easy, that will be between 3 and 4. Medium, between 7 and 11. And extreme, between 14 and 15. So it depends on depends on the map and how many watchmen you have in your village, and of course which ones you select. We'll go for easy here because it's the most easiest to do. Next up, we can go for advanced settings. These settings can change the world default. basically to make the game a little bit more challenging for you. If you want to have immigration control, if you're a town elder, you will be able to approve or deny immigration to the town. Starvation, basically the same thing. You can allow people to die from starvation. I usually put this off. I don't want my villagers to die of starvation. But this, if you want to be more realistic, you can turn this on. Storm damage. There are some storms that pass through and they can damage your buildings automatically. And if you are not really careful, you could have all your buildings damaged and then you would have to repair them. And repair them costs money. And depending on what level you go through, you can have damage also require wood next to money, and that would make it very difficult, particularly in the beginning of the game when you have very little silver to begin with. So I would suggest turning this off, unless of course you're looking for a challenge, then turn that on. NPC buying delay enables and disables delay at game start or for NPCs buying property. So basically at the beginning, NPCs will also join your village and you are competing with them. If you let them buy property as fast as you do, then there will be nothing left for you to buy. They'll be so fast, as a matter of fact, it'll be too fast and you will not be able to compete. Then you will just have to work up and then get yourself into a proper relationship with them before you can actually buy it from them, which might be costly depending on how much time you want to put to it. But if you want to look for a challenge, this is a really cool start. Spreadable fires are by default on. They can spread from building to building through sparks, and if you are not really that careful, you will end up with a completely demolished village and nothing will stand. So carefully if you want to keep this on. If a hut burns, particularly if you have like an internal fire, like a fireplace or any kind of cooking or even a kitchen for one of your ale houses, for instance, there is a chance that this building will catch fire and then that fire will spread to the buildings next to it, and then before you know it, everything's on fire. Contagious sickness, this is by default on. Basically there are some sicknesses, from small illnesses to violent ones to the plague that can spread, particularly in bunk houses, in workplaces. So if you want to not allow the plague to spread, then turn this one off. Otherwise it's pretty much random who gets the plague, but that person then can become contagious and spread to pretty much everybody else. And if you are unlucky, then the entire village can get sick, and then before you know it, everybody's dead and you are the only one left alive, if you are left alive, because you can also get sick if you are not really that careful. So I would suggest leaving that on, because it's a little bit fun. It makes it that that people actually die in the village, particularly people that hate you or that you hate. Market stockpile. It's necessary if you want to keep the economy going of the village. If you don't have a stockpile, then the markets will fill up real fast, and then any kind of product you buy will have to then basically need to wait until it gets replenished. And with a stockpile, that the market can actually get a little bit more ahead, and you can actually store more stuff. Nails for construction. This prevents you from building stuff like new buildings without the use of nails, making it that you actually have to have a workshop in a village or any kind of setting, or pretty much anywhere, or basically the markets need to have nails so that you can buy before you can actually build anything. This makes it a little bit more difficult to start. I would suggest you do not turn this on. By default it's off, because even the developers know that this is pretty much insane to keep on. Deadly events, whether or not people can be injured or killed by production events, this basically makes it a little bit more fun. So you have random events that occur in the workplace across the map, where maybe a tree falls on a wood chopper, or somebody drops into the fire in a workshop, or a rat bites a farmer in the hand, and then they lose their hand, they die, whatever. It's possible. This kind of things, people constantly that. It makes it a bit more realistic. Increase skills. If enabled, the player and AI will each get an additional set of random skills. I don't think this is actually, it's more like a cheat to turn this on. That makes you a little bit better at something. And that way you can, that skill allows you to do that particular skill a little bit faster and get that more, basically not have to acquire that skill anymore. Foraging enables and disables foraging for eggs, fruit and veggies. Turning this off makes it difficult to get food in the beginning of the game. That means you have to first start out with making food for yourself before you can actually get food. So it makes it a little bit more challenging. By default, it's on, so you can actually go to fruit bushes and to vegetable bushes and also pretty much to chicken huts, chicken coops, and forage for eggs or fruit or vegetables, and then feed yourself with it. If you turn this off, that's disabled, and you will need to go and find your own food, maybe hunt or make food. Either way, this makes it a bit more difficult. Upgrade with wood. Now this comes together with the storm damage. If you select these two, basically it means that any kind of damage you have on your buildings, you would have to pay for and also use wood with. These upgrades are usually when you have to buy a building, so you can upgrade it. And in this case, with upgrade, you have to then also use wood. Now, usually silver is more than enough. You don't want to also have to use wood to upgrade. It makes it much more difficult and slower to progress in the game. Merchant camps. Basically, in the game, you have a couple of merchants. They supplement the markets and allow you to sell your wares to them instead. But all these market camps and stuff, merchant camps, when you sell things to them, after a while they leave, particularly when their money is over or finished or the winter comes. They will leave and they will take whatever they bought with them. So you can't really, whatever you sold to them is definitely gone. So keep that in mind. But it does give you the option to sell your products at a higher price, particularly if your markets in the map are already full with materials and stuff. Bunkhouse warmth. So a bunkhouse is where you start the game out. If you don't have a house, you start in the bunkhouse. If you lose your house or if you die, you also end up in a bunkhouse. Bunkhouses are usually for people that are not settled yet. They don't have a house, or they're still waiting to build a house. They haven't bought one yet. They go to the bunkhouse and they stay there. Now, the warmth part is, particularly in the winter, if you do not have a fireplace in the bunkhouse, you can actually get cold while staying in the bunkhouse, and that will add to the chances of you getting sick. If the chances of you getting sick is high, the chance of you getting the plague or a violent illness or something also increases. So adding warmth to the bunkhouses makes it a little bit less of a chance that people will get sick while staying in the bunkhouse. Now, turning this off and also leaving this on means basically everybody who stays in the bunkhouse will catch a contagious disease. So it makes it a little bit more fun. Internal fire risk. So whether it's enough internal fire pits or a kitchen, that building can have a higher risk of burning up. So you want to be careful when you upgrade your houses with a fireplace. Then that building then has a higher chance of catching fire. And if you also have spreadable fire, that also increases the chance that the fire will be spreading out of control. And you'll have, particularly if you're in a small village and you don't have that many villagers, the chance of you losing all of your properties is quite high. So keep that in mind. Competition penalties. Whether or not you suffer relationship penalties from competition. So the game itself has a market. There's an economy, and if you are the owner of a business, and then somebody else comes and makes or builds another similar set of business, like for instance an ale house, there is competition. Now that person who owns that additional ale house can then harbor negative thoughts about you, become an enemy, and potentially even try to kill you if you are if that goes too far. So you want to try and keep an eye on that. Then if you want to turn this on, there are some penalties to this kind of competition. Land taxes. Basically all the land that you buy is owned by the king. So any kind of land that you have bought, or any kind of businesses or properties you've built on land from the king, you have to pay taxes on. You can turn this off, and it basically saves you some money. Now, eventually, once you have a proper king standing, the land tax is removed anyway. So, but this basically gives you a little bit more of an income in the beginning of the game. So turning land taxes off makes it so that you actually have a little bit more of a purse. So plague. Plague basically is a contagious disease that can spread within bunkhouses or workshops and so on, or workplaces. Turn this on, makes it that people actually can die from a disease. Now, usually the plague is not healable. You cannot get rid of the plague unless, of course, you go to the church or to a priest and have a wandering priest, and have that person bless you You can only be saved by God if you have the plague. So this is it is nasty, but it is a means of adding a little bit more difficulty to the game. So if you have the plague, then you well, first of all, good luck. Secondly, go to the church as soon as possible and pray. Arrows. There is hunting in the game. So in the beginning of the game, you can start by hunting some deer. Now the level of skill in hunting dictates what kind of a chance you have at actually hitting an animal. And if you have arrows that you need to have, that also creates a little bit of more difficulty. So you have to constantly craft arrows to be able to hunt. Now, right now, by default, it's turned off, which means that you can hunt indefinitely until the animal is completely spent, and then you finally have it killed. But if you turn this on, that means that you have a limit to how long you can play at hunting. You would have to have arrows, and you have to have arrows made in a workshop, or you have to buy them by a market to be able to go hunting again. Now, together with the foraging, turn that off and turn this on. That makes it incredibly difficult to survive in the winter, or particularly in any kind of season in this game. So be careful when you turn this on and this off. Player aging. I personally think this is very important. You want to be able to progress. Your legacy is kind of important. So aging is seemed, in my opinion, necessary. You do have an age limit. So usually the chances of you dying of old age is realistic. Eventually you either die from diseases or just pure old age, but that's around 30 or 40 years. You begin the game at 18 and then you age every year, and depending on how many years pass per season, that progression can either go fast or slow, depending on what you want. But player aging is important. So once you have got to the age where you feel like you're settled, you can marry somebody else, a woman or a man, depending on what kind of type of person you selected, the character itself. And then if you have children, you hopefully have some children that can take over from you and become your heir. Otherwise, your spouse will become your heir and take over when you die. And then your legacy can continue. If you do not have a spouse or children, once you die, the game is pretty much over, and then you can start over again from nothing. So your legacy ends, and that's it. Additional raiders, you can select how many more raiders you want to have on top of the originally selected extreme violence, medium, and peaceful settings that you have for the raids. You want to have more raiders in there because you prefer to chop and dice your way through a fight and turn this more of a top-down kind of struggle. Then go ahead and add some more raiders. Maximum wild animals. This dictates how easy it is to survive off of hunting. Pretty much putting it on 15 means that the map is sparsely populated. There are very few animals, and it makes it very difficult to survive off of hunting. You can put it up to 60, and then it's just basically a plague of deer, of pigs, and foxes, and all these kind of things. You don't really want to go with 60, but if you want to go and spend all your arrows just hunting animals, then 60 it is. Rich immigrant wealth. So there are a couple of immigrants, different types of classes. You have poor, which is basically everybody below 4,000 silver coins, and everybody above 12,000 silver coins is then considered rich. The businesses that you can buy in the game all have a value. So if you are a rich immigrant, or you are a village owner and there's a rich immigrant joining your village, the chances of them being rich is not that high. But if they are rich, then they usually have over 12,000. That means that they can buy houses that you are selling or business that you are selling, and then compete with you, or even continue to work in your village. And they might even be able to build other businesses themselves that they think that the village needs. So you want to keep this is 12,000 is plenty. 32,000 is a bit much in my opinion. But if you want to have an easygoing, select that. And then these villagers, these immigrants, will build your village for you instead of you having to do that. Now, common production events. So you want to have a number of events happening because some of these events are actually positive. A lot of them are negative, like some worker gets sick, or some worker gets damaged, or a worker dies. There's a chance that one of these events are negative, well, harmful, and some of them are useful. You can, of course, turn it off completely and then live off of the default game. Makes it a little bit easier. If you want to have 10 per... This is kind of annoying, though. You get a lot of pop-ups. I leave it at 5, or sometimes just 2, because I really, really don't like all those pop-ups popping up and just clouding my view. Anyways, that's it for now. Let's continue. Now, mother. So before you start the game, you got to select what type of parents you had. Your mother gave you life. She gave you your start. Although she is long gone, well, she's dead, you will still think about her often, which comes to mind. Now, you can select any one of these types of properties or traits that she had. And then what she did to you, she abandoned me, is if you want to go for the begging and pickpocketing. Basically, there's no grave, and she didn't teach you shit. Okay? And you basically have no choice but to scrounge your way through life. This is if you wanted to go for the hard thief kind of route and then try and make your way through. If you want to go for the easiest way, she cherished all life things, living things, or a mastery of foraging, basically making it a little bit easier for you to basically survive through the map in the beginning of the game. She cherished all living things, gives you knowledge of milk and wool. She's a master at foraging for food, basically gives you more skills or more points in eggs and fruit and vegetable harvesting or foraging. So that basically means that you can actually gather food faster. So the higher the skill level is, the faster you can get stuff done. In most cases, I would suggest you go for these two. If you are a beginner and you want to start the game with a reasonable amount of skill, then go for foraging for food. So we'll select that. The father. Before his death, your father played an important role in your life and helped shape who you have become. What do you remember of him? Now, this is basically your dad. If he if he died while fleeing a battle, knowledge of fitness and begging, and his dishonesty is for pickpocketing and waylaying. So you can, if you want to become a thief, this is probably what you want to go for. If you want to become a laborer or crafter and stuff, then a skilled craftsman or a laborer is probably what you want to go for. In my opinion, you want to have the ability to actually be able to hunt or to fight a little bit more, because there are going to be raiders in the map, unless of course you turn them all off. So we're going to go for, well, you can go for strength or melee. So we're going to go for skill in battle. It gives us a little bit of knowledge in melee and archery. Now this gives us two options, or two properties, or two positives. Archery lets us, better skill in archery lets us hunt better, and melee lets us actually defend ourselves when we get into trouble. So we'll select that one. That way we can protect ourselves from nasty spouses or ex-girlfriends, whatever. Just joking. You can't really divorce your wife in this game. All right, childhood. During your childhood, you got to the first glimpse of the kind of life you wanted to lead. What was the first thing you really enjoyed? Now, here, once again, if you want to go for the pickpocketing, the most difficult part of the game, then I would suggest you go for taking money from others. That will get you more points in pickpocketing, and basically makes pickpocketing and stealing from people a little bit easier. Now, the reason why this is important, if you want to start this game kind of type, is that the more skills you have in pickpocketing, the less likely you're going to get caught by watchmen or by the person that you're trying to rob. If you are looking for a way to survive in the game a bit longer, then I would suggest for caring for chickens or collecting food. Swinging an axe is pretty handy, particularly in the beginning if you want to start your own village, because this gives you the knowledge in melee and firewood, and gives you a little bit more skill in chopping wood. So that way you can start chopping wood a little bit faster and get more wood faster. And that way you can build up your village faster, which is kind of useful. Manual labor, knowledge and hauling and fitness. Shooting the bow, if you want to do more with hunting, then this is what you would go for. Particularly in maps where there's going to be less food and there's already a village set up, then you don't necessarily need to have swinging an axe. You don't necessarily need to have the ability to gather wood. Although wood is still quite pricey, more so compared to hunting. Now, we're going to go for, shooting the bow is okay. We'll just select that one. Maturing. As the years went on, you came to notice how much turmoil there was around you. What did you do to take your mind off things? Now, light fire gives you the more skill in arson, so you can actually burn your competitors' houses down or businesses and rebuild them on your own properties. Study the trees and rocks gives you more wood and iron. Craft goods gives you some knowledge in crafting bows, axes, and silver charms, which gives you the ability to actually make money in the beginning, which is kind of important if you want to start building a property or some kind of assets. Learn about agriculture. If you want to do a job, then this is what you want to go for. That way you have a bit of knowledge in wheat and barley and oats. Then you can produce on the field a lot more and make more money. Practice the facts of life, love making. If you want to have more babies, you want to go for love making. Haul carts for a trader. Knowledge in hauling and trading. That makes you get more money for each and every trade. And if you want to go for the waylaying and the stealing part, the thievery, then you want to go for cause trouble and you want to be able to break in. Now we're going to go for craft goods so that we can actually craft the bows and axes and stuff like that we need to make some money in the beginning of the game. So we're going to collect that. Moving out. The time has finally come for you to step out of your own and say goodbye to your family. What is the last thing you want to do before you leave for good? We want to forage for supplies. Basically, this gives you a couple more points that you can put in anything. So cut firewood. So knowledge in firewood, not necessarily a useful thing. Steal a bag of coins. If you want to know some pickpocketing, get some more pickpocketing skills. Light the house on fire. If you want to just basically burn your bridges. Play with your family dog. Knowledge of fitness. Enjoy some ale. If you want to do some ale and mead brewing. Basically, if your goal is to own an ale house, this is what you want to go for. Or if you want to work in an ale house, this is what you want to go for. Forage for supplies, fruit knowledge, and then eggs and stuff is increased. Cook everybody a big meal. Knowledge of making meat pies is increased. But we're going to go for forage for supplies because we don't really want to cook for anybody else. Heritage. Your parents were very proud of their heritage and encouraged you to embrace it as well. So when you tell stories of your ancestors, you speak of basically when their parents died, they were part of a tribe. So steadfast Saxons or Wessex basically gives you a bit of a boost in archery and trading. And the Anglo-Saxons basically gives you craftsmanship, tailoring, and farming. So if you want to go and craft more the tools and stuff in the beginning, tailor clothes and farm, and then you want to go for this. Basically, it gives you the ability to farm faster, craft tools faster, and basically make clothing faster. If you want to go for the Britons, then you are a bit better at herbal items, and you have an immunity to mild illnesses, so you won't get sick very quickly. Hardy folk from Northumbria, substantial needs to boost their fitness and hauling, and the cold winter will have much life and effect for you. So basically that means that you are capable of handling much heavier loads when you're hauling stuff, so you can walk a little bit faster. You can also run a little bit faster without a cart, and you are less prone to getting sick in the winters. Fierce Danes who come to raid, substantial needs to boost to melee and waylaying, and all charms will last longer. Basically, if you want to be a thief and you want to murder people, then go for the Fierce Danes. So we're going to go for the Proud Angles of Mercia. Basically gives us craftsmanship, tailoring, and farming. So we can continue that. Your story is set. Now you step out and choose your new home. Now here, we select our first map that we want to play with. Pretty much they're all the same, except for the Wintershire map. This, oh sorry, not that one. Where is it? One town and four town founding. There's a map here. 0 towns and town founding. That one. Devanaskir basically means that there are no towns here, so there's no market, so you can't trade your goods. So when you start here, you start with a 0 map. You have to build your own market and basically start from nothing. This is for advanced players. So if you are a beginner, I would select you go for a town, a map with at least one town in it, or multiple, so you can have a bigger chance of succeeding in life. Because if you select for one town, for instance, that means the raiders are going to go to that town straight away, and there's no chance of you being able to. You have to fight basically to keep your businesses going. If there's raiders coming, you have to hope that the town has enough watchmen to be able to protect you. 3 towns or 4 towns is what you want to go for in the beginning of the game when you're a beginner. In our case, we're going to go for Whitland. This is where the most beginners begin. So we're going to select this one. And then you have the option of selecting your starting position. So the most difficult, of course, in this case is when you have no property. So you are, for instance, a village drunk, a beggar. then you have no businesses, and you basically have a little bit of coin, and hopefully people will give you some coins or something. If you want to start as a thief, then you want to go with these and then progress from there. Hopefully you'll be able to survive the first couple of seasons and then progress. Steal as much as you possibly can and buy your first house almost as soon as possible, or a hut, or get yourself into a bunkhouse as quickly as possible. Otherwise you won't make it to the winter. If you want the easiest, begin with a business owner. That way you already have some money coming in, and basically you can start working away and improving those businesses, and then start it with a little bit of a coin, and then basically buy the rest of the village. If you want to start as an employee, basically you already have a job, you can start here, and that gives you a daily income as long as you work. Once you have a little bit of more coin, you don't pay taxes because you don't own anything. You might be able to buy the business, buy your own house, start paying taxes, and then live on from there. And then hopefully, once you have enough coin, you'll be able to progress further in the game. If you want to go for the traveling trader, this is what you want to go for. It's also pretty difficult. The hunter and the landlord. Landlord is the easiest. I think the business one and the landlord are the easiest ones. So as a business owner, you basically have a business, and landlords, you have tenants. So you have huts or houses that you rent out. And by a business, you actually produce goods and so on. So we want to go to a village where there's a bit of a defense. So the angle wall, standard beginning and stuff like that, is actually protected with a wall. It has already a set number of very well defended walls, entrances by watchmen, and it's reasonably good start. But there are a whole bunch of thieves here that will try to pick your pockets, and if you are unlucky, they will also kill you. Abercombe is where I usually start, because here I can just immediately buy some properties, some fields, and continue from there. In this case, we're going to go for Atterkop so that we can start and see how that goes. But that's the end of this first episode of the tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.